Hello, dear friends. It is the 12th of September. It's about 23 degrees outside. Nice, very nice. Some of you are asking why I take videos while I'm walking the dog from this angle. I know it's not a great angle. It's so as to make geolocating myself rather difficult. I am on the murder, death, kill list, Patriotism, that's sponsored by America's vassal, the Ukrainian Nazis. So, yeah, there's that. Little aspects of life. So, try to keep the just the treetops and the sky in view. Which means it's not my best angle, but what can you do? It is what it is. Drago, stoi. 1 second. So anyways, as saying, by the way, hit like, resend. I am shadow banned, so a lot of these videos aren't getting out on the search engine. That they're not popping up in people's streams. So if you resend and share, it gets out. Otherwise, you know, YouTube has its way. The YouTube algorithm works on its little shadow ban project there. So, share, by all means. Excuse me, it's going to get a little loud. Tractor passing by. And stopping behind us for some reason. Anyways, so the news is getting very serious. It's getting so serious, people really don't realize how serious it's getting. Blinken, it's bad enough you got Clown World, you got the head of CIA and the head of MI6 doing a joint talk with the media, and of course lying through their rotten teeth. Every single word a lie. But that's aside. I mean, as Pompeo told everybody, they were taught to cheat, steal, and lie, and murder while we're at it. So, the CIA, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, so Blinken showed up in Kiev, and the game is on. The escalation, the super escalation game is on. We're down to, 50-something days to the American vote, elections, and the super escalation game is on. We're on a fast track to get the big war rolling. And the Blinken administration, because let's face it, Biden is brain dead and Kamala isn't that far behind. The Blinken administration, or the Sullivan-Blinken administration, has given permission to Ukraine to launch ATACMS deep into Russia. Now, the bases that Zelensky wanted to hit are too far for any ATACMS to get to. But there are civilian targets. In fact, a couple days ago, there was a drone attack of 140 drones onto Moscow. And these drones are going for civilian targets. That's all America and its Nazi whore can do, for the most part. It's hit primarily civilian targets. Almost all the drones were taken out. I think 2 or 3 found targets, and one of them killed a woman in her apartment. Flew into and blew up her apartment and damaged other apartments around it. So a 45-year-old woman died, and a bunch of people got injured. Because that's what you're dealing with. Homicidal maniacs. On both sides of the Atlantic. So now the ATACMS can fly. Again, most of them will get knocked out, as they have been. The question is which cities they're flying in. Now, Vladimir Vladimirovich, what people don't seem to realize, or don't want to realize, is President Putin is a moderate. And he's under massive pressure to retaliate hard. And not just against Ukraine, but against its masters. And he's been able to fight that off, the pressure off. But he's under it, and he's under very big part of pressure for it. And so far he hasn't done it. But sooner or later, he's not going to have much of a choice, and he's going to have to do it. And depending on what gets hit, or where they hit it this time, there's going to be retaliation, and it's not going to be limited to Ukraine. So there's not going to be much of a choice. So the question becomes, what gets hit? And then there's going to be the counter retaliation. More than likely, Poland's going to get it, because Poland or Romania are going to be first in line, because that's where the bases where Ukrainian equipment is prepared, assembled, and that's going to get it. Depending on what they hit, how hard they're going to get hit back. And they're going to get hit with rockets that they can't take down. I mean, that's just how it's going to be. So, минуту, сейчас едет. Подожди. Сейчас. Вот так вот. Жуй. Give them treats when the cars go by. Keeps them calm. And he knows it. Go. So anyways. So we are on the fast track to escalation. Now the question is, how many NATO countries really want to go and have a large chunk of their population die off in war? As for the common Joe who's been sitting on his arse, doesn't pay attention, I read the commentary of the debates. And yes, the American debates are mind-bogglingly bad. I mean, it's like a couple of fifth graders go out in a lunch yard and they start putting each other down. It's about on that level. I mean, there's nothing really said, per se, at all. It's just mostly cutting down each other. So not much for policy discussions, ever. So anyways, where was I? So yes, we've got this problem. And the people, it's interesting when Trump did bring up the point that how close the U.S. is to World War III. And people are writing, oh, he has nothing, what the hell is he talking about? There's no World War III, everything's good, everything's calm, he's making shit up. I mean, the American audience, at least a good, very large chunk of it, is really that damned ignorant. They're going to get a surprise when either something big pops on their city and takes them all out, or when they get the draft notice, because the American army is incapable of fighting a war at this point. No matter what it thinks or how it wants to play it, it is incapable. But, yeah, so there's that. Overweight, women in the infantry, women in the artillery and tanks, which are physically incapable of doing the job that needs to get done. Sorry, but that's the reality of biology. Transvestites, low training, the whole works, the whole 9 yards. So if you think the U.S. Army is capable of fighting the Russian Army, yeah, right. Yeah, the U.S. may hold dominance at sea, well, until at least the supersonic missiles, hypersonic missiles come in, take those aircraft carriers out. Because look, you could pop a missile up that's doing 20,000 kilometers per hour. Divide that out. It's about, 300 kilometers per minute. You can pop that missile up. You can pop that missile up 150, 200 kilometers out. Yes, there's an acceleration period for that missile also. So, counting that acceleration period, that missile will strike that aircraft carrier in about 2 or 3 minutes. And the missiles are carried in submarines. So, what happens? Bye-bye aircraft carrier. I mean, just it's simple as that. Yeah, just the kinetic energy of that hit would rip through that aircraft carrier. And if you got into you hit the munitions, or you hit the fuel, if it's non-nuclear, or even if it's a nuclear, you hit the fuel containment, and you'll radiate that ship. Even if it doesn't sink it, there ain't gonna be many people left alive on it. And there you go. So aircraft carriers, the mass weapon of destruction for third world countries. Yeah, you can beat the crap out of a third world country, they can't hit you back. But if you notice, U.S. aircraft carriers aren't coming close to Israel. You know why? Because Hezbollah has a lot of anti-ship missiles. A lot of anti-ship missiles. Yes, they're not hypersonics, but they can overwhelm the phalanx systems. Quite simply, you fire a big enough mass and you can overwhelm it. You even hit one missile, makes it to the flight deck, and that aircraft carrier is no longer functional. It has to be retreated. If it's still movable, it has to be retreated. So there you go. There's the other problem. And now we're looking at a scenario for World War III. Because once that attack hits and there's a mass casualty event, and the Ukrainians are going for mass casualties, Russia will retaliate because it has no choice. No matter how much Vladimir Vladimirovich has been putting a brake on all of this and not escalating, it gets to a point where there's going to be an escalation. And if the U.S. starts preparing nuclear weapons, if the satellites pick up that the U.S. is starting to prepare those nukes in Europe, those European bases in Germany, in France, no, there are no in France, I'm sorry, in Germany, in England, in Italy, in Czech, I believe, they're going to get nuked. There's going to be a first strike. Russian doctrine has changed. There's going to be a first strike, and you don't have to hit the cities because the fallout is going to go right across most of the European cities. So you Europeans are going to have a real fun fall. Thanks to your owners, your autumn is going to be extra special colored. But I mean, if you're too lazy or too stupid to get out on the streets and force your government to say no, the way your parents and your grandparents did in the 80s, say no to those short-range or medium-range nuclear weapons on your territory, then, you get what you get. But don't worry, your owners, who are America's whores, are going to be taken care of. They have their bunkers, or they feel they can retreat to the U.S., which the U.S. isn't immune. So when the next wave of escalation goes, the U.S. is going to get it. So we are on the brink of the end of a very large portion of the human civilization. And most of you reading this are going to be on the receiving end of nuclear weapons. I mean, that's where we've got right now. And that's a worst case scenario. Best case scenario is full-on war with NATO, conventional, that will eventually turn nuclear anyways because NATO doesn't have the strength to do it. And once NATO goes in full-on war, all NATO infrastructure and cities are now legitimate targets and will get hit. And sooner or later, NATO losing that war is going to try to save face and go over to tactical nukes. And NATO tactical nukes are between 3 to 15 kilotons is considered a tactical nuke. Russia really doesn't have tactical nukes. They call it tactical nukes, but they're really operational nukes. And an operational nuke in Russia a Russian operational nuke is 75 kilotons. Just so you understand, Nagasaki or Hiroshima, I think if I remember correctly, somewhere around 38 kilotons. So this is 2 Nagasaki's, or 2 Hiroshimas. Hiroshima killed in the city, first blast casualties, initial casualties were well over 70,000 dead. And then probably another 50, 60,000 that died within the next couple days from radiation and shock wave. It's horrifying and interesting. I was listening to a video that was reading the accounts of people who survived Hiroshima, and they're talking about the shock wave. It was so strong, and this is from a small nuke. A shock wave was so strong, it literally ripped the skin, degloved people and animals. It just ripped the skin right off of them. Okay? Just like a glove, took it off. So, just muscle mass and bones. and that was charred. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty horrific. It's not Fallout 4, put it that way. It's people have no realization what they're dealing with. They've watched too much Hollywood or other stupid crap like that. They've been dumbed down on purpose. And interesting enough, the journalists that support this, they're all too stupid to realize they're going to be dead too. They're going to be the victims of all of this too. Oh well. There's a special place in hell for them because they helped sponsor this mass death event that's coming up on us. So, okay. So I hope, the Blinken-Sullivan Administration gets what it gets because they more than deserve it. I mean, it's amazing. Look, land of the free, home of the brave. You're not free and you're not brave. Brave people aren't stupid enough to go fight whatever friggin' war their owners tell them to fight that has nothing to do with America and American freedoms. I love when people send that out. Oh, they died overseas defending America's freedoms. I'm sorry, where the fuck did your freedoms go off and get lost in Afghanistan or Iraq or Syria or any other place? How did your freedoms get there? Meanwhile, you're so stupid they're not realizing that your freedoms are being stripped by the very people sending your kids off to die for their profits. So stupid, there's patriotism and then there's this couch keyboard patriotism that the vast majority of Americans enjoy. Oh, we'll send them money, support them, remember them because they died for your freedom in Afghanistan. Yeah, they died for corporate profits. Well, let's just put it the way it is. There's no damn freedom, American freedom in Afghanistan. And they did it for corporate profits that they couldn't, the heroin that was being brought in that created the heroin epidemic, the morphine, and now you've got the fentanyl because the Taliban came in and burnt those fields. So real morphine became scarce and synthetic came in. I mean, that's what they died fighting for. Record crops of poppies every year, or just about every year. Look it up. Look it up. That's what they died fighting for in Afghanistan. That's what they killed a lot of Afghans for, too. Iraq, oil. Syria, Trump at least was honest, oil. And the U.S. Army, by the way, burns long-range attacks and burns Syrian wheat fields to try to starve Syria out. Yeah, that's freedom right there. That's the home of the brave and land of the free. And what freedom? What freedom do you have? What freedom do you have compared to what freedom your parents or your grandparents or your great-grandparents had? And read up. Most people are too damn ignorant to understand how much their society has changed. Read up how your grandparents lived and what they could do and what you can't do. You're not free. You're ignorant and you've been mentally conditioned to believe you're free, but you're not free. You're a slave. You're a serf at best. Maybe you're not quite a slave yet, but you're a serf. You get the illusion of freedom. The government will take everything away from you at any time it wants to. That's the U.S. government. But you can believe you're free, and you can go vote. You do that ritual once every 4 years, as they tell you, well, the next one never comes. The next vote is not going to get better. Your choices are not going to get better. It's never going to happen. The next one is an illusion. It's a lie. And I've heard that, when the first time I voted in the U.S., since I did grow up there. Since I was, for those that don't know, I moved to the U.S. when I was 8. Left that shit show 14 years ago. Went back home, back to my motherland. And I'll tell you, every single vote, you get to hear, hold your nose, vote for the lesser of two evils, and we'll do it the next elections. Bullshit. Never happens. You don't get the freedom of choosing who your candidates are. The owners put out 2 clowns, and you get to choose one of those 2 clowns, and nothing changes. And no, Trump didn't dry out the swamp. Trump surrounded himself with all the swamp creatures. All the people that came in, like Bannon, that came in with Trump, they were all gotten rid of. Half of them are in jail. And Trump surrounded himself with nothing but swamp creatures. And by the way, Trump, let's be honest, Obama started the Ukrainian Revolution. Obama armed the Nazi regime. I'm sorry, Obama didn't arm the Nazi regime, but he put the Nazi regime in power. Trump armed the Nazi regime. And then Biden took it to the next level. But it all started with whom? It all started with Clinton. Clinton and then Bush Jr. moving NATO, and day one, Ukraine was on the menu because day one, Russia was on the menu. Russia has been destroyed and broken up. So, I mean, that's the reality of it. Anything anybody tells you otherwise, one of these bloating politicos, talking heads who has no real power anyways. You see what a real power is. You see the real power is the Sullivan Blinken administration right now. You get Trump, sure, Sullivan Blinken will go out, and there'll be two other neocons with the R book, the R letter on their Patel instead of the D letter. And in the end, it's still the same thing. That's the reality. That's the reality we're all dealing with. That's the reality you as Americans are dealing with first and foremost. And no, the oceans won't protect you. In fact, the oceans, if one of those Poseidon bombs goes off, that's somewhere between a 60 and 100 megaton bomb in the ocean. You can't find them. The drones are sitting there. And if they're not sitting there, they'll be launched and they'll be there in a couple of days across the Atlantic. Remote control. They've got a nuclear engine on them, so they'll make it. And when they blow, that's going to be one hell of a tidal wave, because that's what they're designed to. They're designed to create a huge tidal wave that's just going to wash over the East Coast U.S. So all the coastal cities, it may not go up to the mountains and the Appalachians or anything like that, but all those coastal cities, Norfolk, Richmond, Charleston, Washington, New York, New Jersey, or Jersey City, they're all going to be gone. And you imagine a 50 to 80 meter wave coming in with that kind of blast. Oh, and, the waves go both ways. So Ireland and England are going to get their share, and France and Spain. Because that's how, explosions work. So just think about that. Because we're here. We're here. I mean, this goes deeper. Me personally, the moment Slovakia gave the first tanks, I would have hit Slovakia. That would have calmed everything down. But our side didn't, because they didn't understand the West. They still wanted to negotiate. They still do want to negotiate. I mean, Putin has offered new oil and gas deals to Europe, to the enemy, because Europe is our enemy, with a few exceptions. Orban, Robert, so, Hungary, Slovakia. And Slovakia, when I say it would have hit them, Slovakia was under a liberal government at that point. That was all in for NATO. And it's interesting, if you listen to McGregor, he's got a lot of contacts in Southeast Europe, and they're all calling, saying, what the hell, we don't want to fight Russia, the Balkans. This is the Bulgarians, this is the Croatians. We came in for a defensive organization. Now we're going to have to go to war, and we don't want to go to this war. We're not going to go to this war. So it's a question still, when Article 5 gets triggered, how many countries are willing to commit suicide? Because that is exactly what it's going to be. France, I'm sure, will. Italy is a big question. Greece, don't know. Turkey won't. Turkey will reap the benefits of destroyed Europe, and why not? If Europe is so stupid to commit suicide, Germany probably will. So, and so on. So, that's where we're at now. All right, boys and girls. I'm signing off. Support me, please, if you wish. Buy me a coffee. Patreon. If you're on Patreon, I'll send you a link. The link's in the description. You can ask me questions directly. I'll answer them as best I can. What's the unladen? What's the speed of an unladen swallow in flight? That may be a little bit difficult. It just went over the head of a lot of people, but some people got it. So I hope. Cheers. God bless. And get active. Get to your politicians. Tell them to stop this crap now. All right, cheers.